In HOI4, there are 84 starting nations, but only 7 of them are majors. Today, we'll take a look at all of them and see what makes them so special, which one is the strongest, and what is the meta for each of them. The US is the strongest nation in HOI4. You have almost all resources that you need on your own. You have extremely overpowered research bonuses, which among other things allow you to rush for heavy fighter freeze with jet engines. And you also start with the strongest starting industry, which is only being held back by a bad trade law and spirit. As some of you might know, I also played and won with the US in Tommy K's great game, so I have played the nation quite a lot.
Oh man, very clever from USA. He made mountaineers. He did it. You see it in the North Alps?
Here, look how many he has too. His entire army.
This could be the end of Italy and the end of the great game here.
In the great game, I did mountaineers, and that is generally also the meta as the US in vanilla. You should do GBP left, and for your naval invasions, you should mix marines into your mountaineers till you hit 50% amphibious attack. In multiplayer games, you are largely just an air factory, just spamming out heavy fighter freeze and strat bombers till your team has enough, or till your team has green air. Focus-wise, you should try to rush the Great Depression away, and you'll also need to get rid of undisturbed isolation. Usually, you'll have enough war support for that at China War, but some tips to get there faster include sending an attaché and going for a selective training act early on. Naval-wise, you should either spam super heavy battleships or light cruisers, and your admiral should be Ernest King. In the vast majority of cases, you should not be building dockyards though, since your fleet paired with a British fleet is usually far superior than any Axis fleet you would realistically be facing. Note that super heavy battleships also allow you to trade boost the UK if the multiplayer rule set prohibits unnecessary trade. In general, it is meta to trade as much of your eco to your allies early on, as much as possible, since they just have much less construction debuffs than you do, right? So for your construction, you want to be building infrastructure until Giant awakes. Again, that is because you don't have penalties on it, but you do have penalties on civs and mills, and then you should just opt into mills. You probably also want to be building a land warfare facility in Nevada, since that is your only dam state. And strategically, I would suggest the US should focus on putting pressure on the Axis early on, and for it to ignore Asia. Just letting the miners do with it, and building rubber refs to deny Japan any game impact. France is the only allied tank nation. It comes with two main build variations. The fast game build, in which you try to hold the Axis in mainland, and the colonial build. Either way, you are supposed to build heavy tanks with 4 small cannons, since you don't need the increased breakthrough from radius, because you typically will only be fighting under green air. You want to be building about 6 to 8 civs to ensure you will be able to trade post-capitulation. Ensure your occupation law is local autonomy as well, and try to only build in your colonies, but avoid North Africa, since it very well could be taken from you. You want to rush for the colonial spawn-in factories, and you want to try to get the focus for the second special force doctrine in time, since that will make your Amtraks, which you should aim to have in your tanks, better. Doctrine-wise, you also want to go GBP left, and on both special force doctrines, you should aim for the extra special forces attack modifier. As the only allied tank nation, you should ask your allies to land lease you anything that you need. Typically, this would involve the UK or the US building some Amtraks for you. Try to position yourself in an element war, and later on, you'll have to support the allies on D-Day and potentially in Raj. The UK has a very similar playstyle to the US. With the main unit you are spamming out being the Mountaineer Marines on GBP left, and with you mainly acting as an air factory production-wise. Unlike the US though, you should be building Fighter 2s with your air defense MIO, since you lack the American research bonuses for heavy fighters. Anyhow, you want to be rushing Fighter 2s pretty much instantaneously with a naval range MIO, since that one gives the strongest research bonus. You'll also need to ensure that you build enough navs for your team to deal with all the enemy submarines. Your miners should be building infrastructure with you day one or within you day one, and you should be building civs till approximately 1937 and then opt into mills. You should mainly be spamming out convoys with your dockyards just to make sure that your AC has enough convoys for the land lease to always arrive and to ensure trade can properly flow within the allies. Focus-wise, you should be rushing into developing your colonies while also going for some other bonuses in the tree. before D-Day, you really want to see or to have extra command power focuses. Those are really important so that you can keep force attacking on D-Day. It's also good to know that in high-level games, you won't see much land battle until your Marines go and defend D-Day usually. So at least in his games, this may be a rather boring nation for most people. The Soviets are probably the hardest to play major in HOI4. You need to hold the axis as long as possible to enable the allies enough time to get game impact. You will almost certainly have red air and you should probably abandon air just altogether, don't put anything on it. The meta playstyle at the moment is a GBP left frontline hold, in which you try to click the axis back with your heavy tanks as early as possible, to stall out time and to possibly punish them for underinvesting into their barbed defenses. For the Russian tank design, it is crucial to ensure you get enough breakthroughs, since that is what you are going to be lacking due to the fact that you are fighting under red air. Your infantry are just garbage 18 with holders. Again, the entire point of this build is being able to at least somewhat click the Germans. As the Soviets, you are not supposed to win a bob. Ever since Götterdämmerung, it is virtually impossible to even hold out until 1943 against a good axis. If you manage to do that, that is already a very great axis build. It is a very unsatisfying major to play, because it looks very bad, right? You will just get overrun in 1 or 2 years. But if you manage to hold out 2 years, that's already a major feat against the axis nowadays. Also, the reason we have to go GBP left is because mobile warfare just can't click axis tanks, not even on plane tiles. It is just impossible. Alright, anyways. So for your construction, Russia is one of a few nations that can actually Sifgrid until about Gen 38. It is extremely important to keep in mind that the mills you build afterwards, you build as far as east possible. While still sticking to somewhat good infra slots, right? You don't want to build in 20% slots, but like 40, 60, possibly 80% slots if you find some. As a rule of thumb, I would not build mills further west than Moscow. Focus-wise, make sure you get rid of the paranoia as fast as possible, while also getting the industry bonuses at the right time to rush Tools and Kong 4, and then later Tools 5 without wasting the industry bonuses you get. Good numbers to aim for at war are about 500 infantry divisions with a few 100,000 stockpiled guns and about 50 tanks. Japan, similar to the US and Britain, uses mountaineers and marines on GBP left to try and break through the enemy lines. For your early game divisions, you want to be building 18 with infantry and some marines to break China, in my opinion. Optimally, with a few naval invasions, that makes the China war a lot easier, especially if you naval invade in the north and then later in the middle and south. You should try that out a few times in single player and you'll get really good at it. It's not that hard. The China war needs to be rushed, especially in pure vanilla, and during it you should try to obtain a few good generals with infleader and high attack stats. Other traits are nice but not necessary. For example, you should not delay the war for adaptable, since that's a bit of a nothing burger nowadays anyways, since there's basically no terrain, and I think a lot of people still do that, so don't do that. You can also gamble for a commando general that you can then later promote, or grind any random general without prior traits across the strait in the south. To get commando, you just build a fort across the strait, then you retreat out of it, the China AI will take it, and then will always defend that fort. And then you can just keep clicking them over them. During China war, make sure to go harsh quotas to get as many factories as possible during the war. Then after war is finished, go for civilian oversight to retain the compliance from your collabs. Never kill China before all 3 of your collabs are finished. This is the highest priority, since China will make up the majority of your eco. You want to build mills and a land warfare facility they want. Focus-wise, you should rush for a war with China, and then the Zero, which spawns in everything you need for your fighter design, other than the heavy machine guns and survivability studies. So you will have to research them manually. Carrier airplanes are generally better for you, since you get a crazy production modifiers on them through taking the right decisions. Navy-wise, in general, I'd probably just build light cruisers or just sub-spam, and you should just engage the allies under green air in order to avoid losing your fleet. Like, you don't want to waste your fleet somewhere. It's fine if the allies keep their fleet in Asia and you keep yours in Asia, it's fine. You don't have to force an engagement. If you get stuck as Japan, again, also don't worry. Your moment is going to come eventually. The allies will have to do something in Europe, and you just need to wait for a situation in which the allied resources are scratched thin. in order for you to be able to force green air over Raj, for example, and just battle plan and kill them. Or if a navy has to give shore bombardment in Europe, you can try to engage them or just naval invade like crazy. So just wait for the right moment and then strike. As you may have noticed, every major until now was going GBP left. But not this one. Italy has this super fun role of providing D-Day mass map infantry and to produce and control air. Yeah, that's right. You'll go mass assault right and spam out the same 16 with template to roach out any allied invasion. You'll also need to produce some port garrisons for the Mediterranean, typically just some 36 with infantry. Focus and research wise, you need to just rush for the air bonuses to rush both engine and the light airframe. And so for you and Germany, both of you will be producing the Italian license. You then go for the industry focuses and also annex Albania. You want to spam collapse on Yugoslavia and attack it as early as either possible or as the rule set allows. When declaring on Yugoslavia, do not walk in and tell your allies to buy resources from Yugoslavia. If they do that properly and buy enough, you'll be able to switch to total mob, which is really powerful. You're also supposed to be free trade and to trade boost Germany, since their mills are more useful than yours, just from the production modifiers. Although it is fine to take some trade backs, especially early on, just telling Germany, yo, send me 6 civs back or something, yeah. Construction-wise, I wouldn't be building civs too long, definitely not past 1937. Largely ignore Navy on Italy as well. You won't be able to contest the UK Navy realistically unless they somehow throw, but you shouldn't bet on that, so I won't invest into that. Other than that, fighters, or other than the fighters you'll have to build, you'll also have to build Barbcats for Germany. Go at least 40 military factories on that. That is really important. Germany always needs max ground support modifier. Make sure they have that. Just in general, a lot of the tips for my air guide apply to this nation, since Italy is the air controller, so just go check that out if you're interested. But as long as you know how to properly micro air, this shouldn't be too hard of a nation to play, especially if you test it once or twice. Germany is the most important nation in the game. You basically set the pace of the game, and nonetheless, you're extremely dependent on your miners, and you are the Axis team captain. You need to coordinate with them, and you need to ensure that they have enough of everything you want from them. Usually, you'll need to make sure you give them enough guns if they don't have enough, or AT, or whatever, Just make sure they have enough. For the many people that asked, by the way, don't worry, I will later on also release an actual in-depth Germany guide as well. And if you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe, okay? Okay, anyhow. Germany plays more or less similar to France, with you virtually only making heavy TDs, but this time with radios, and you'll also have to pair it with some howitzer medium tanks that serve you to not only click infantry stacks and to click out Allied Marines on D-Day, but to also to grant the Daimler-Benz MIO to level 6, with which you can then later produce heavy tanks as well. You want, for your day 1 construction, you want to build infrastructure in Hessen, Rhineland, Mosselland, and Westfalen day 1. And then afterwards, you want to switch into mills immediately, so no civs. By the way, in about 39, a few months before war, actually you can do it pretty early on in 39, you want to start building some refineries in your 100% slots. So leave some 100% slots open. Okay, you also want to be 24 mils on guns day 1, so that you can rush the entrance focus as fast as possible. To do that, you just have to spam out enough 2-withs, and you have to not touch your starting army at all, so that they don't lose any strength. From day 1 onwards, you have to just spam collapse, basically till war the entire time. You want at least 2 on France, 2 on Poland, 2 on Belgium, 1 on Netherlands, 1 on Denmark, and 1 on Norway. But if you can manage to get more, that is even better. Also make sure your occupation law is local police, so you don't lose all of that compliance immediately. I know that for new players this can sometimes be a bit counterintuitive because collapse eats so much eco, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. You have to go for that as a good Germany. Economy-wise, the left side scaled heavily into the late game, early on being slightly weaker than the right side. On the right side, eco-law, you have to rush for focuses to get rid of the consumer goods and the other factory spawn-ins. Once war starts and you change to economy of conquest as well, try to always take gold up to the point at which your consumer goods drop to 10%. Don't go below that, because that is the consumer good floor. You can't go below that, so that is just wasted decisions. PP, everything, compliance. For Führer Princip, go for Todd to get the the design company, his industrial design company. You can go for that. And then later you can switch through Göring through an event that you will get, and you will still retain the design company that you got from Todd. Also go for Hess and Goebbels in that order whenever possible. Ensure to go at least 50 on fighters and build static aid to not completely die to bombing, and build up level 5 railways at least before Barb. Also, if allowed, try to get Amtraks into your tanks instead of mech by the time Barb starts. I mean, Germany is probably the nation with the highest skill ceiling, but I think if you follow all of this and you will try it a few times before you can master it, you will be more or less fine and you will be able to make a good Germany. Anyways, before I end the video now, I just want to say, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. If there are any more open questions, put them into the comments. I'll try to answer to all of them, and I mostly managed to do that, I think, especially if a comment is in the first few days after the video release. Anyways, thank you for watching, and goodbye.